No one was truly prepared for what happened after the fashion industry calendar shifted toward a new season. While many brands were still talking about transition, trend adjustments, and attempts to reread market preferences in the post-pandemic era, and after the transformation of digital culture, Calvin Klein instead moved forward with an almost provocative confidence. They did not merely announce the Spring 2026 collection designed by Veronica Leoni, a designer with an intellectual and assertive minimalist vision, but also positioned Jungkook, BTS's Magne, a global icon, a cross-cultural figure, as the gravitational center of their narrative. The question is, why now? Why at the beginning of the year? And why Jungkook? For the general public, the answer may seem simple. Jungkook is Calvin Klein's global brand ambassador, a collaboration that has historically produced extraordinary impact. But for ARMY, who are accustomed to reading pauses, silences, and symbols throughout their idol's career journey, the timing of this appearance feels both strange and electrifying. BTS is currently in a group hiatus phase, a period many consider a time of calm. Yet it is precisely this calm that creates unease. Is this truly just a routine solo activity? Or is it a signal that Jungkook is positioning himself at an entirely new level of influence? When Calvin Klein released the video of Jungkook's arrival through their official accounts, the effect immediately felt like a controlled explosion. Within minutes, the short clip showing Jungkook stepping out of a black SUV, waving to fans, and walking confidently through the crowd spread across platforms. Instagram, X, TikTok, and Threads were flooded with video snippets, screenshots, and emotional reactions. The energetic background music was not merely a visual accompaniment, but a dramaturgical device reinforcing the message. This was not an ordinary arrival. This was a declaration of presence. ARMY across different parts of the world began asking the same question. Why does it feel different? The loose gray suit worn by Jungkook indeed reflected the minimalist aesthetic of the Spring 2026 collection, but it also radiated an impression of quiet authority, as if he did not need to shout to command a space. The smile captured in candid shots appeared warm, yet there was firmness beneath it, an expression many fans interpreted as a symbol of transition. From an idol who merely attends events to a global figure who no longer just enters a space, but changes it. Calvin Klein's post on X titled "Jungkook is Back. Calvin Klein Collection Spring 2026 by Veronica Leoni, New York City," became a subject of its own analysis. The phrase "is back" triggered speculation. Back from where? Back as what? Is this merely wordplay? Or a clue that Jungkook is entering a new phase of self-representation on the global stage? For ARMY, every official word from a brand as large as Calvin Klein is never considered accidental. There is narrative, there is strategy, and often there is a surprise saved for the right moment. Emotional panic began to surface not out of fear, but out of rising expectations. ARMY are accustomed to major achievements, yet the scale of impact this time felt different. According to a report by WWD, Jungkook's presence pushed Calvin Klein to become the leader in media exposure during NYFW, generating a media impact value of $340.3 million, with engagement surging by 1,168% compared to the previous season. These numbers are not merely statistics, they are concrete evidence of what fashion analysts call the Jungkook effect. Yet this is precisely where unease emerges. If a single appearance can generate such an impact, what is the next move? On social media, ARMY reactions appeared in layers. There was euphoria, there was pride, but there was also an unexplainable sense of apprehension. Comments like "the most handsome man who took over New York Fashion Week" may sound like standard praise, but when repeated millions of times and accompanied by globally trending hashtags such as hashtag Jungkook and Calvin Klein, they transform into a dominant narrative. Jungkook is no longer just part of the event, he becomes the event itself. And when one individual begins to shift attention away from the collection, the designer, and even other attending brands, a deeper question emerges. Is the fashion industry witnessing a shift in the center of cultural power? For ARMY in Indonesia, this moment feels deeply personal. Amid the rapid current of cultural globalization, seeing their idol stand at the center of one of the world's most prestigious fashion stages evokes a sense of pride mixed with emotion. Yet that pride does not come without sharp curiosity. Why does Calvin Klein appear so confident in making Jungkook their main face at the beginning of the year? Why does this strategy feel more aggressive, more structured, and more emotional than previous campaigns? And the question that collectively sends ARMY into panic: is this only the beginning of a much larger series of surprises? Rumors began to surface, some rooted in data analysis, others in symbolic interpretation. Some speculate that Calvin Klein is preparing a total redefinition of its brand image, with Jungkook as the central axis. Others believe this marks Jungkook's first step in asserting his position as a cross-industry icon, not only in music or fashion, but in global popular culture as a whole. There is no official confirmation, yet it is precisely this absence of answers that amplifies the echo of questions. When the video "Get Ready with Jungkook" was released on YouTube, showing moments of preparation before the runway, the relaxed yet fully controlled atmosphere further reinforced the impression that everything had been meticulously designed. No movement felt spontaneous, no expression appeared uncalculated. For some ARMY, this strengthened the suspicion that what the public sees is merely the surface of a far more complex strategy. And it is at this point that panic transforms into anticipation that is almost unbearable. Are Jungkook and Calvin Klein at the beginning of this year simply celebrating the success of a collaboration? Or are they sending a message to the world that the old standards of who is allowed to dominate the global stage have changed? These questions continue to echo unanswered, and in doing so bind public emotion even tighter. One thing is certain: whatever is happening between Jungkook and Calvin Klein, its impact has gone far beyond the boundaries of a fashion event. It has become a story about symbolic power, about changing times, and about how a single figure can make millions pause, question, and wait with bated breath. As the panic among ARMY at the beginning of this year merely a fleeting emotional reaction? Or is it in fact a reflection of something far more structured, colder, and more strategic than what appears on the surface? That question began to gain footing when official numbers were released and patterns that had previously only been felt started to materialize into evidence. The fashion world may be accustomed to sensation, but not every sensation survives when tested by data. In the case of Jungkook and Calvin Klein, data has only deepened curiosity rather than easing it. A report from WWD stating that Calvin Klein generated a media impact value of $340.3 million during New York Fashion Week is not merely an achievement, it is an anomaly. Among 71 brands in attendance, Calvin Klein commanded nearly 70% of brand influence, a level of dominance that has historically been rare on a stage as competitive as NYFW. Even more striking, Jungkook himself accounted for over 55% of celebrity mentions on social media. These figures give rise to a question repeatedly asked by analysts and fans alike: is this still a collaboration, or has it already evolved into a symbiosis of power? ARMY read these statistics differently from business analysts. For them, numbers are clues. An engagement surge of 1,168% does not merely signal popularity, but emotional intensity. Every click, every comment, every reaction video is an expression of a deeper bond between a public figure and their audience. And it is here that unease begins to creep in. If Jungkook possesses this level of magnetism, how much control does he truly hold over the global narrative? Is he still merely the face of a campaign, or has he become the axis that determines the direction of conversation? On TikTok, this phenomenon feels at its rawest and most honest. Millions of views flow into short clips showing Jungkook walking, smiling, or simply standing still. There is no dialogue, no dramatic action, yet the algorithm continues to push him onto screens around the world. Fashion enthusiasts who previously had no connection to K-pop begin asking, who is he? Meanwhile, ARMY, who have followed his journey since debut, ask the opposite question. Where is all of this leading him? Two opposing questions, yet both equally charged with meaning. Rumors began to develop, some stemming from seemingly trivial observations. Why is Calvin Klein so consistently positioning Jungkook as its primary face across platforms, from Instagram to YouTube, without sharing the spotlight with other figures? Why was the video "Get Ready with Jungkook" released with an almost documentary-like tone, as if aiming to showcase his human side while simultaneously reinforcing an aura of exclusivity? Some observers describe this as an icon humanization strategy, a classic method of deepening emotional bonds between consumers and a brand. But to ARMY, the approach feels far too personal to be mere coincidence. Discussions on X and Threads have begun to drift toward bolder speculation. Some suggest that Calvin Klein is preparing a new phase in which Jungkook is no longer just an ambassador, but a co-creator of the brand's narrative. There is no official proof, yet traces of it seem evident in how content is structured, in the timing of releases, and in the choice of words. The phrase "is back" is once again debated, this time in the context of symbolic power. Back as a fashion icon? Back as a representation of a new masculinity? Or back as a figure who transcends old categories altogether? ARMY's emotions have split. On one side, there is pride that nearly overflows, seeing their idol recognized and celebrated on a global stage at a scale that is difficult to rival. On the other, there is a quieter anxiety, a concern that such immense exposure will bring invisible pressures. The history of the entertainment industry is filled with stories of figures who rose too fast, who shone too brightly. Is Jungkook ready for these consequences? Or has he, in fact, been preparing for them long before the public realized? Fashion analysts have begun using the term Jungkook effect, not merely as a metaphor, but as a real variable in brand strategy calculations. Each of his appearances generates hundreds of thousands of viral impressions, a phenomenon usually achievable only through massive multi-platform campaigns. Yet Jungkook accomplishes this through presence, minimal gestures, and a consistent image. This challenges long-held assumptions about how influence is built and sustained. If a single individual can shift the balance of exposure so dramatically, what does this mean for the future power structure of the fashion industry? In Indonesia, the conversation takes on a more emotional tone. Many ARMY view this as global validation of Jungkook's long journey, from trainee to world icon. But beneath that pride, more personal questions emerge. Does this mean Jungkook will be seen less often in contexts that feel intimate with fans? Will the distance between idol and audience continue to widen as his influence grows? The panic here is not about loss, but about inevitable change. What intensifies everything further is Jungkook's relative silence. There are no lengthy statements, no clarifications, only a presence that is consistent and measured. In a world saturated with opinion, such silence speaks louder than words. It creates space for rumors to grow, for interpretations to multiply. And every interpretation, whether optimistic or skeptical, adds another layer to the narrative taking shape. Is Calvin Klein using this moment to redefine its position in the global market? Or are they simply following the current created by Jungkook himself? This question has yet to find a definitive answer. But one thing is clear. The relationship between Jungkook and Calvin Klein at the beginning of this year has moved beyond the framework of conventional collaboration. It has become a case study in how popular culture, digital data, and collective emotion intertwine as fashion seasons change and media spotlights search for new stories. The shadow of this moment lingers. ARMY continued to observe, analyze, and feel every development with the same intensity. Their panic is not unfounded. It is born from the awareness that they are witnessing a turning point. Where that turning point will lead Jungkook remains a mystery. Yet it is precisely that mystery that keeps this story alive, pulsing, and waiting for the next surprise. If the panic among ARMY at the beginning of this year has one deepest root, it is not merely about numbers, virality, or media dominance, but about the sense that something not yet fully revealed is moving slowly yet surely. What is actually being built by Jungkook and Calvin Klein? That question continues to echo precisely because no final answer has been given. The fashion world is accustomed to grand announcements, but this case unfolds through small signals, precise timing, and a silence that feels deliberate. After the euphoria of NYFW subsided, public attention did not truly shift away. Jungkook's name continues to surface in cross-platform discussions, not as a retrospective, but as a reference point for the future. Many analysts have begun to ask whether this collaboration will stop at the role of global ambassador, or instead evolve into something more structural. In the history of modern fashion, only a handful of figures have been able to blur the boundary between the face of a brand and the identity of the brand itself. And as that question is raised more seriously, ARMY perceive it as a signal that Jungkook's position has shifted into territory rarely reached by K-pop idols before. The collective emotion of fans is now in a waiting phase, not waiting for a music comeback, nor for the next campaign, but waiting for confirmation of direction. Every Calvin Klein post, every appearance by Jungkook, is read as a clue. Even the absence of news is interpreted as part of the strategy. This is where clickbait and reality intersect. What initially appears as media sensation gradually transforms into an academic narrative about symbolic power, cultural representation, and the shifting center of global influence. For the fashion industry, this moment raises a question larger than any single name. If Jungkook is capable of generating such impact, does this mean the future of fashion will increasingly rely on cross-industry figures who carry global communities with them? If so, what Calvin Klein has done at the beginning of this year may be remembered as a visionary, even daring decision. If not, they have nonetheless created a precedent that cannot be ignored. ARMY, on the other hand, stand at a complex emotional crossroads. There is a mature sense of pride, no longer raw euphoria, but also an awareness that every major step carries consequences. Jungkook now carries not only his own name, but an ever-growing weight of global expectation. The panic felt here is not about fear of failure, but about the changing nature of closeness between an idol and the world observing him. Thus, when the question "ARMY panic? What is really happening between Jungkook and Calvin Klein at the beginning of the year?" is repeated once more, the answer may lie precisely in that uncertainty itself. What is unfolding is not a single event but a process, a gradual shift from collaboration to influence, from presence to symbolic leadership. And as long as that process continues, as long as clues keep emerging without a clear conclusion, panic, anticipation, and curiosity will continue to coexist. This story is not over. It has only entered a new chapter, where every step Jungkook takes and every decision Calvin Klein makes will be read not merely as a business strategy, but as a cultural statement. ARMY hold their breath not out of fear, but because they know the next moment could change everything.